Hi, this is Lori from Shoo Shoo Paper Art, and we're going to be making some envelopes for odd-sized cards today. Like this one. It's skinny and it doesn't fit properly in an envelope. It looks funny. It looks too small. So I had a couple of questions about some of the envelopes that I've put on my blog with cards lately, so I'm going to show how I make those. I've also used the same method here for a little gift card holder, and so it works for all kinds of things. It also works for large cards, which I'll also show you how I do. I don't really do any measuring. I just use the actual card itself to make the envelopes. So here I have a piece of 8.5 by 11, or close to it. I actually have some of the edges cut off because I printed this and it didn't print from edge to edge. So there's a little bit cut off. I think this is 10 3/4. Not that it matters. But I've printed it on 28-pound copy paper, which I really like for envelopes. They turn out really nice. They're not too thick, they're not too thin. I really like it. So anyway, if you do your own printing of paper, that's a good choice. If you don't, you can still use decorative paper. It works just fine. It's just that I really like this. I'm going to start at the top part of my envelope. If your paper has a direction, you will need to think about that. That's one thing that's nice about polka dots. It doesn't really have a direction. So for the top part of the envelope, I like 3/4 to an inch wide. And since I have plenty of paper here for this little tiny card, I'm going to go ahead and make it an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and score at an inch. All right, now I want my envelope big enough that this can, I don't have to just force it down in there. So, and plus I have a little bit of thickness here with the ribbon, bow and lace and stuff. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of room. What is that? Probably about 1/4 of an inch. And then I kind of want the same down here as well. So 6, looks like it's about right. I'm going to go ahead and give it just another 1/8 of an inch just to make sure. So let's go ahead and score that line. Okay, so now I've got the 2 lines that this card will fit in between. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the paper and figure out where I need to score for the other sides. Okay, so my paper is about 8 1/4. The center is going to be just a little, over 4. So I'm just going to set that in there. Now, I want to give, again, a little bit of space on each side of my card. So, for instance, if I score at 2.5 here, that looks about right, but let's check the other side. If I go 2.5 inches here, that's going to be 1, 2.5. That looks about right. So I'm going to go ahead and score. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and give it just a little bit bigger area. So I'm going to score just the one short there of 2.5. And I'm going to turn it around just to make it easier so I don't have to think about it, and do the exact same thing on the other side. All right, so now I have my score lines. I'm going to double check just to make sure I didn't screw anything up. And it looks like my card will fit perfectly in that space. The next thing I'm going to do is I want there to be a bottom tab. This is my bottom score line, so I'm going to have my tab be about 1/2 inch. It really doesn't need to be bigger than that. So I'm going to use my paper cutter and trim from here up to 1/2 inch from this line. So I'm going to go use my paper cutter, cut this off, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I have trimmed off that edge. And the next thing I'm going to do is use my scissors to cut off the 4 corners that are made from my scores. So let's go ahead and trim those off. You could use your paper cutter. I'm just always afraid I'm not going to stop at the right point, so I find it easier to use the scissors. Once I have that done, I'm ready to start completing the process of folding this up. So I'm just going to fold on all of my score lines. And one thing to make note of if you use this paper is that sometimes the scores don't hold as well as they do in other paper. I'm not sure if that's because of the weight or if it's because of the paper is a little bit slick, and I don't know for sure the reason behind that. Okay. I'm going to leave that up and I'm going to start putting this together. You can trim if you really want this line here to be in the middle of your paper. You could trim this off. I found that it really doesn't make much difference to how this looks, so I just leave it. I'm just going to run a little bit of glue. You could use you know, runner glue or runner tape to do this. I find that I like this just as well. So I'm going to just close that up, and then I'm going to fold up the bottom and do the exact same thing. I'm not going to use a lot of glue on this weight paper because it will buckle. That might be one reason to use the tape runner instead. All right, so that's all folded up. Make sure my card will fit inside. Okay, it looks good. Yeah, let's fold this down. Now, one thing I might mention is turn that over and take a look at it. And if the little tab sticks out over the edge, you can just trim that off. That's something that happens to me occasionally, probably because I'm not the best cutter ever. So anyway, like this one, see how, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's sticking out a little bit on the side. So I'm just going to take my scissors and trim that right off. Okay, now you might ask, how am I sealing this? Well, there are some glues you can use, but I kind of find them to be a pain. So what I do is use sticker paper and die cut, perhaps a heart or some other shape, and use that right on top. Now, if I'm going to mail this, I put just a little bit of glue, seal it down, put on my sticker, and call it done. On the front, if I use a paper that's hard to see, if I to write on the address, then there's a couple of things you can do. You can continue with just the die cutting sticker paper and stick that on and put your address. You could use a stamp and a die cut. This cute little set from Fawn is a really good option. A lot of times you can just write it right on the envelope. Whatever works. There's a lot of different things you can do. For the little stickers on the back, you could also, like what I did for this one, the little gift card holder, is for this one I made, just stamped and colored on sticker paper, another of these cute little agenda cats to use as the closer on that one. Okay, so let's talk about what if you have an unusually sized large card. For example, I'm going to use this heart as a guide. I made some valentines from this heart. This is a Fawn die that you're actually supposed to fold up and turn into an envelope, which is really very cool. But I wanted a big heart for a valentine, so I just left them unfolded and it made a really darling heart. But if you'll look here at the paper, you can see that there's probably no way I'm going to be able to use one piece of paper to make this envelope. So, again, I've printed it on that same paper. I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did before. I'm going to start, now you might notice that I've printed this landscape instead of portrait. And that's just to give me a little bit more space to work with. That works out really well if I want to have a wider space to accommodate my bigger cards. Now, you can see that this paper does have a direction. So I want to be sure and turn it the way I want it to start the process. So I'm going to go with that 1 inch at the top. I've laid my heart in. You can see I've probably already that I've made a couple of score marks on here. I'm going to go ahead and give it just a little bit here at the bottom. I'm going to, let's see, make sure it has space enough. So I'm going to score the bottom one, turn it over, and go ahead and get those sides in. Okay, so let's see here, kind of put it in the middle. Let's do 2 1/8. Do the same thing on this side. Okay, at this point, I'm ready to do that trimming for the bottom tab. Let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's the paper. I went ahead and this is the bottom tab. You can see I cut it to about 1/2 inch. I went ahead and cut off those 4 corners as well. And now you can see when I fold up the edges here that I still don't have a full envelope. So I've cut a panel from the second piece of paper that will fit right over the top of this envelope to finish it off. It is the same size as the envelope, completely closed. So that will fit right on top of the envelope, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to use this as my tab to glue it to. I'm going to go ahead and fold these over, and then I'm going to add my glue. The heart should fit inside. There we go. Yay. Still need to press that down a little bit for my glue. All right, so we have the same issue here. Let me close it up. Let's see, I think I made a big heart for the front. That will be cute. And then I have a heart for the back. Just a little cuteness there. Okay, so that is how I make my envelopes. Okay, and I'm looking at this one and I can see that this edge is sticking out just a little bit. I didn't measure perfectly, did I? So I'm just going to trim that off. Okay, that is better. So, large envelope, medium size envelope, and a gift card envelope, all made the exact same way. One thing that I might say is if you're going to be mailing these, they need to be at least 3.5 by 5 to put them in the mail. Otherwise, it doesn't make any difference. And also, these envelopes, you could do the addressing this way. So you could put the tag on this way, or you can turn them sideways and put the addressing sticker on. Doesn't really matter. So anyway, I hope you make some of your own envelopes for your odd shaped or sized cards. And thank you for joining me. You can always find me at shoo-shoo paper art.com.